Kid of Arcadia. Chapter 12. Eyeing the Open Wounds. In a dream, or was it a memory, Eliot was resting chest down on my bunk with his face half submerged in a pillow, pouring an eye over one of Dad's old sci-fi pulps open beside him. The afternoon sun was shooting the peaks of his shoulder blades like sand dunes as he lay there with his bare feet kicked up and hair low about his brows. He was whispering every struggled syllable in that blocky computerized font and dragging a finger across the page. He was still learning how to read. Then everything dimmed outside for a second under a passing cloud, and just when I thought I was going blind, blazed again like I was staring through a bare bulb. He pushed me back and sat up on the bed, throwing his graphic novel down between his legs. The red Martian rocky vista and human settlement appeared moving like a video game on the page, blinking green laser lines into the star-filled sky. He pointed at a shadowed figure in the far corner of the illustration, a fiendish outlaw driven from the settlement, now blazing a Wild West dust trail toward the horizon and swearing never to return. "He became a bug," he said. "Really?" I asked. Then I remembered how stiff I'd woken up that morning, with every muscle locked in as if made of bone, and how I'd gone to groan through the pain and tossing but couldn't find my voice. My sore back kept me from turning over in the night, so I lay belly up on the bottom bunk the whole way through it. I exhausted myself rocking back and forth on the sheets, my arms and legs crawling at the air, but I managed to roll from the bed to the floor where I crawled into his shirt or something. He wore me to school that day. Without a voice I couldn't explain myself, and without a human brain I didn't remember why I'd done it, but that afternoon I must have turned human again. When I woke for real, I faced the white ceiling and knew instantly it was a school day from the feeling of dread. It was the same burned-out blue I always felt when the sun rays were stretching across the walls that soon I'd be shuffled from the warm bed and crammed into a rickety bust with all the other drowsy dupes. In no time I'd be miles away and sitting at a desk in a colorful classroom with 20 other mugs I'd never seen before all over again. I hated that feeling. "Wake up!" Josh shouted. Startled, I jumped up and slammed my head on the ceiling, hard enough to knock me back on the pillow, almost unconscious. A sharp ache throbbed into my skull. "Fuck!" I shouted, pounding the ceiling in frustration with one hand and rubbing my bedhead mat with the other. There was just no getting used to the ceiling overhang being that close. Josh busted up laughing around the corner. He loved that. A half hour later, I was standing at the bus stop and trying to get my bearings on the new neighborhood. Josh swung around the signpost just like Kelly used to do, with his arm outstretched and his head slung back. The sun poked through the puffy clouds and spread shadows long across the street in the dewy chill where they landed. "Bus is late," Josh said. I sat on the lawn to fit in with the others and loosened the spare pack they'd given me off my shoulders. There was no telling what was in store at the new school day today, where I'd be placed once again and what they'd have me doing. And the worst part was there was nothing I could do to get away from it. No magic spell could make it all go back to the way it was when I used to go to the school with the kids I knew in the neighborhood I could understand. And so waiting there was all we could do to get out of that silent morning suburban hell, for surely the world had frozen in time, and we were the last people on Earth. Fat old oaks evenly shaded each spacious lawn across the stretch, their branches forming faces against the gray sky and the breeze. Early birds crooned and a hawk circled the scene. A car sat idling down the street as if watching us, even though it wasn't. "If they don't come soon, I'm splitting," Josh said, stopping for a moment to peer down the empty street. I could tell he was going to take advantage of the lack of supervision. The others didn't acknowledge him. I watched the hawk glide over. By noon, the two of us were hanging at a local baseball diamond. The sky had cleared and sunrays passed slowly on the vacant grasses, full-bloom trees, and triple-decker homes lining the hill and the park. He clung to the aluminum fence, and I sat on the wooden bench to enjoy the sunlight. We had spent an hour that morning wandering up and down the winding roads, and for the first time in weeks I felt like I was still alive, like the world hadn't ended, and that I hadn't died the night the cops came. There was still more to see and do in my life. Josh didn't know the area any better than I did, so we both felt like explorers venturing into the unknown. He was experienced, though. He always had an eye out for the cops and kept on the move because he knew they were probably out looking for us by then. He said that we'd be okay because the woman had left us alone at the stop and she wasn't supposed to do that, apparently. We ducked under an interstate overpass for shade and crossed an intersection that led to the main drag where a convenience store waited on every corner just like back at home. Not wanting to look suspicious, we didn't go into any. People stared at us from behind car windows at stoplights and glass panes in every boutique and drug shop up and down the strip. The world was a radically different place when the kids were in school, as I'd soon come to know well. Josh slid into a phone booth in town and used up his lunch money to make a call, and I sat on the curb until he was done with it, watching people gawk at us like we were stray animals wandering the roadside. Any one of them could have told the cops. Josh finally stepped out about 5 minutes later. "I made a call here so the woman doesn't have to know about it. Phone's all yours," he said. How nice that would have been, I thought, but I didn't have any change. As we rested at the baseball field later that day, I just stood there kicking up the diamond's dust below the bench, and Josh just pushed and pulled on the fence like he was trying to rip the whole structure from the ground or start a fight with it. "Man, I love baseball. I used to play before I was put in the system," he began with his own story. "They moved me out of my first foster home when they found out those people punished us by not feeding us, and guess how they figured that out? But they only moved us when it landed in the paper. And guess who got it put there?" He seemed proud of himself. "Why'd they put you in?" I asked. "I guess I used to just fuck around too much and got in too much trouble. My asshole parents took off when I was little, and I ended up living with some friend of mine. He was the one paying for my practices anyway. My parents actually got me put in because they couldn't care less and didn't want to kiss anybody's ass to get me back, especially my dad. He didn't even pick me up that one time I got busted. He just left me there and I never saw him again. See, everybody likes to screw me. In one way or another, they want to screw me," he said. "My parents couldn't take care of us, and my brother had too many issues," I explained. "The same kid you were crying about last week?" he asked. "Yeah. It all happened so fast, I got no idea what's going on now." I kept my story impersonal. "Yeah, don't lose sleep about it. You're never going to know that. Next step from this place is one of them detention centers, and there's no escaping those. Then you'll be out on probation. I've been there once too. We're taking a risk skipping out like this, you know. But we'll survive. This is nothing," he said. He was pulling down his coat sleeves again, still trying to hide his purpled scrapes. I noticed this, but still didn't want to ask him about it. I felt like I already knew how and why they were there. This was a kid who had been to the brink. "No one listened to anything I said, you know," I said. "No, they're not gonna listen to you. They got some twisted idea of protecting the children. You don't matter to them. Only your welfare matters to them. And once they got you in, they're out to get you any way they can so they can look good for getting you. You're just their next raise, vacation, or promotion to them. Whatever they can get. So only the psychos last more than a year. It's total burnout for the good ones." As he spoke those words, hatred boiled up in me again. It made no difference whether he was right or wrong, and I didn't care if it was unfair to the ones who actually cared, because it felt good hearing it said. Someone had to say it. All the guilt I felt for what had happened could be dumped on one source whether they deserved it or not, and that felt good. My caseworker's got it in for me. She got me therapy this week. "What do you think they're going to do?" I asked. "They can't do shit to you, but you can really screw them over good if you know how to work them. That's what you can do. What do you think I did to my parents? They ran out on me, so I ran out on them. They got me put away, so I got them put away. They didn't need me, so I didn't need them. And neither do you. Don't let them think you need them. That's how they got power. But you still got control. So use it or lose it." We sat there a while trying to work off the hot tempers and ill feelings with some lighter words and then continued on. There was no need to worry anymore, because from that moment on, I knew things were going to have to change. By the month's end, none of it would affect me anymore one way or another. The only question on my mind was whether I'd allow them to give me freedom, or if I'd take it for myself. "So, man, what's your thing? You like baseball? What are you into?" he asked on the way back. "Video games," I said. "Basketball." "That's cool. What about cars? My favorite is the '82 Maserati Campson. I got it in this nice car magazine back at the room if you want to see it sometime." "The '77 Firebird," I said, starting to feel better. "Nice one, Bandit," he joked. He had seen it too. We walked back to the house and faced our persecutors head-on that afternoon. They were waiting for us. At the police station, the officer threw me into one of the juvenile cells where I was told I'd be spending the night. They hit us with the charge of truancy by running away and took us down the shiny tile steps to be booked, photographed, and fingerprinted. Just a few weeks earlier, I had sat getting my picture taken with my family at the mall, and now my face was a grubby mugshot against a white-lined wall. I wanted to scream at Josh for getting me into such a trap the whole harrowing ride over in the cruiser, but any anger I felt was nothing compared to the uncertainty over what was in store. My resentment cooled. It wasn't his fault I had followed him. The cops were literally waiting for us to show up at the group home that day, parked in the driveway. I guess it was easier to nab us like that. As I slouched against the cell wall that evening, I felt the full sting of guilt over what I had done. Had I just gone to school that morning, none of this would have happened, but now there was nothing I could do about it. I was going to spend the night in that cell, and face the court the next day once again with only my caseworker now to represent me. It was like being guarded by a Doberman that would just as soon turn on me after driving away the pit bulls. The court would determine what was going to happen, whether I stayed in that group home or got stuck in real-time juvie for my crimes. There was nothing left for me to do but lie back and force myself not to break into tears at a moment's notice. None of it made sense to me at all. I must have played hooky 100 times in my life, but I only became a criminal for it while living in state care. Ain't that funny? There was nothing but ear-piercing silence for all those hours. The kind of silence where you could hear your heart beating. And I don't remember much except that sometime late that night I woke fractured on the stiff shelf, dripping wet in tears, after another dream about home had set me off. I wished my parents could have come down and gotten me out of there that second, but that was a joke. I needed my own shoulder that night and only had the hard shelf cutting into my back. The ceiling light shined what must have been 1,000 watts, and the gentle lapse of our breaths grew deafening in that echo chamber. Josh slept like a baby behind the plastic cell divider on the other side of our cell, his back to me. I just stared at him all night. They woke me when it was my time to go, and Josh nodded me a goodbye on the outside in case I never saw him again. The courtroom looked nothing like all those ornate and varnished courts from the TV dramas, and to my relief no heated trial, interrogation, or cross-examination was going to be taking place like I was expecting. The place was little more than a table bench and a few rows of seats on a gray carpet, and when we were called, the judge just asked me 3 questions and conversed with my caseworker and foster parent for 5 minutes. Then they sent me back with the knowledge that now I had a record and couldn't afford another slip-up. They said my attendance with the therapist would be enforced by the caseworker, and gave a verbal scolding to my foster parent who had left us unattended. Josh went up after me and was sent back after he too chatted with the judge for a couple minutes. Then for the next week, Josh and I endured a literal house arrest and heavy supervision, a matter the woman now took seriously. She knew it was really her fault for leaving us out of eyesight at the stop, and Josh told me it was probably why they let us off easy, just as he had predicted. I started thinking maybe he really was psychic. Like so many other things there, it didn't get done unless it had to. The woman was more upset about having to go to court that day than for anything else. No stranger to changing schools thanks to my parents, and now too scared out of my wits to do anything wrong, I trudged my way through the new school that week unfazed by the shift. I got lost down 20 more hallways, sat quietly under the hot lights of 5 more paneled ceilings, and studied 5 new classroom decors, all the potted window plants and posters included. One poster in particular kept my focus most of the afternoons, a giant close-up of a human eye that read, "What are you doing when no one's watching?" For so many math and science classes I sat under that eye, staring into its paper-thin soul, and cursing it for being so blind to me and seeing only what I'd done and not why I'd done it. Nothing felt right there. Every day I sat in the middle of the lunchroom with my styrofoam tray and tried to become invisible, but everyone surely noticed I didn't belong. There were too many confused looks, raised eyebrows, and diverted glances whenever I sat down. That's when you know they don't trust you, when they don't even pay attention. Did I smell? I had to make like I was scratching my nose on my shoulder to find out. Were my nails too long? Was my hair messy in the back, and if it was, did I want them to see me straightening it? Was my desk too creaky when I sat down? Did I want them to think I was some ugly, shaggy-haired, creaky kid with dirty elbows wearing yesterday's smells, stains, and wrinkles? My thoughts were no longer safe from them. That eye followed me everywhere. Then came the day my caseworker loaded me into the Buick and drove me to my off-site psychiatrist for the first time. From the back seat of that thing, I stared out the window and pretended to ignore her sitting up front as the telephone poles flew by outside and the sun danced through the trees. It sent its orange light all across the dashboard, just as she was making me feel like the darkest part of existence back there. "This is for your own good," she said, staring down the road ahead with a cunning sneer that could wring the sweat out of any driver looking in their rear-view mirror. "Don't think anyone's forgotten you. They may have dismissed it, but I sure haven't. If there's a problem with you, we'll sort it out here. I can promise you that. Now's your chance to unload." "You didn't give them a chance," I protested. "Who, your parents? Son, this is their chance. I know you're upset, that's understandable, but if they want you back, they better please the court and show they can do a better job. But let's just worry about you for now, one case at a time. I'm looking forward to this, and it'll be good for you to get all these feelings out, but do it over there, please," she said. How were Mom and Dad supposed to show they had improved in taking care of us when they were no longer allowed to? I didn't feel like asking then, and I still have no idea. "Sounds like fun," I said, rolling my eyes. I shriveled in the seat and let my mind drift as the ground beneath my feet changed from the crabgrass in front of the group home to the upholstered interior of the car, and then from the concrete outside the hospital to the carpet in the waiting room. Around me, neighborhoods somehow turned from main drags into long stretches of sun-soaked highways, and then back to strips, traffic lights, and parking lots, and before I knew it, I was being summoned by the doctor. "Sit wherever you're comfortable. Sorry about the heat. You'll have to bear with that," the psychiatrist told me. She led me into a large office. The opposite wall was a window with long blinds that scattered beams of the afternoon sun across a green Barcelona chair and a brass desk. I sat on the green seat by the window and slouched low, spreading my legs wide like I didn't care, and she shut the office door. She wheeled her swivel chair over opposite me and took her seat to stare me down through her thick-rimmed glasses for a full minute. I drummed my fingers on the cushion. "Okay then," she began, as if she'd been expecting me to say something first. "You recently had a big move. How you doing with that?" "Fine," I said in protest. "No problems getting moved in, adjusted, maybe going to your new school?" "No." "Really?" she sighed, like I was supposed to think that question was just something casually tossed in there after the truancy charge on my record. "Please." "Anything you want to ask me? All kids who experience a change like you did have issues they deal with on a daily basis." I said I'm fine. "I see. You're being taken care of, but I get the feeling that you're upset about something. Is that true?" "I don't know." "You don't know if you're upset about something?" "I guess." "Tell me more about that." I felt removed from my own thoughts. I wanted to tell her off and cause a big scene. I wanted to flip her the finger, kick over her stupid puke-green ottoman and storm out. But I also wanted to see how much longer she'd allow this bullshit to drag. It really didn't seem to matter what I said. "I don't know, you said it. Everything got taken away from me, I guess. Okay, can I go?" I said. She cocked an eyebrow. "You don't know if you're upset because everything got taken away from you. Is that right?" I said, "I guess." "You guess you don't know? Do you know why you guess?" "I don't know. I don't know if I should be angry." "You don't know if you should guess why you should be angry? Is that a problem for you?" I don't..." I leaned forward and scratched my head, confused as all get out. "No, I don't know if I should just forget about it or, you know." "What should you forget, and why?" "Because, it was all my fault." "What was all your fault?" "Nothing," I sighed, realizing how much it didn't matter. I could have said anything. I smirked and laid my head back. "Why do you smile?" she asked. "It's just, you're a fucking machine. You repeat everything." "Would you like it if I didn't?" "I don't fucking care," I said, shrugging my shoulders. "Just do your fucking job already, whatever your fucking job is, and you can kiss my anus, you shit-eater." The whole string poured out before I even made sense of it. "You're upset because I repeat everything. I suppose you don't find this dialogue helpful then, is that right?" "No, but you missed the part about kissing my anus." "I heard that part. Why do you want me to do that?" "This is totally fucking bogus." I crossed my arms and turned my head, a white flag in the minefield. "What is?" "You, this whole frickin' thing. It's not about anything. How much money do you make being stupid like this? Can't we just talk normal? Either that or just let me go. Fuck." "Would you like to talk normally?" "Yeah." "Okay, then let's do that," she said, propping a manila file in her lap. "Jared Gallagher, you're kind of in the middle right now, okay? You have to pull through these sessions with me because I guess your caseworker expressed concern about you and some of your behaviors, and she'd just like to get to the bottom of the issue. That's the rundown. You're not in trouble." "Yeah, they keep telling me that, but I keep ending up in friggin' places like this," I said. "How old is your brother?" "Half-brother, remember? That's what the judge said he was. And don't bother because I hate him, okay?" I retorted. "Does that mean you don't get along with him? What kinds of things did you do together?" Stupid shit. Skateboarding, video games, basketball, horsing around, okay? Happy now, can I go? I chopped the air with my hand. Do you guys have a lot in common? We used to. Used to? He's not my brother anymore. He never was. You're very angry, Jared. Are you angry? She asked. Yes. Why are you angry? Because. Are you angry about anything in particular, or just angry for the sake of being angry? Angry about everything, I guess. So why not tell me more about that? Why are you so angry at everything? It was Broder, okay? Happy now? I blurted out. It just came out automatically. I couldn't believe I said it. A sharp pain throbbed down the back of my throat so hard I couldn't breathe. I clenched my teeth and tried to hold it down, as I saw the events in the lapse unfold all over again. Who's Broder? She asked. I shook my head. My lips locked and I tried not to gasp or shiver. There was nothing I wanted to say to her or anyone else, and I just let it all go that minute in the chair. I pounded my fist on the cushion, stomped my foot, and rolled my head toward the window. Only glass and a couple of inches separated me from freedom 4 stories down on the concrete. It made no difference to me whether I ever went home or not. The problem was me, and it would have still been a problem even if all that other stuff had stopped. I was the problem. I want to die, I whispered at first, growing into a rage. I'm not lying. I want to die. I got nothing to live for. I'm going to kill myself, I croaked, staring into the sun. After that outburst, I refused to answer with anything other than how I wanted to die, so she let me lie flat on the seat. I curled into a ball and she rose from her chair, walked over to her desk and pressed a button on the wall. Extra help is on the way, she assured me. Seeing her lack of concern in pushing that button, I pounded my head with my fist again and again, trying to smash it against the cushion, but then she rushed over and held my arm back. She laid it against my hips, squatted on the floor near me, and softly began rubbing my sore head. She ran her fingers through my hair like Mom used to do, still keeping her stiff face locked on my every move. It was compassion for once. My eyes were still dry, but my hands shook, only half because of the battery they just received. She felt me up and down with her other hand as I lay there and pressed my pockets as if looking for something. Lying down, I was so much more at peace with her hand stroking my sweaty forehead than I had been in all the weeks prior. There was just something so soothing about it. He took me in the woods, and he did stuff to me out there, I guess, I croaked. I was just answering her question. I actually thought she'd forget about it, but she didn't. Okay, I need you to do something for me, she said. I nodded. Can you remove your belt? It was standard procedure for suicide cases, I guess, so I loosened the buckle and pulled it through the loops and handed it to her. And just when I was feeling more comfortable to begin talking to her, a few more doctors rushed in. A fierce discussion erupted back and forth between all the ladies and gents for a bit, as my caseworker stood in the doorway telling them I had only said the all-important "I'm going to kill myself" words to get out of doing the session, but nobody agreed with her. She wasn't completely wrong for once. They asked me to sit up. They asked me many questions, but I still said I wanted to die, which was true, so they escorted me first to the ER, where they decided it was suicide ideation after an hour of making me wait around in there, and then sent me down to yet another waiting room to sit on yet another bench and wait for nothing to happen. The doctors determined I wasn't going to kill myself right away, even though I felt like it, but they couldn't just dismiss me in that condition. They considered shipping me to the facility, but for some money reason decided to just keep me there in the waiting room, back at the ER and under watch. A cot was rolled out for me to sleep on, and they showed me who'd be watching me. The front desk was staffed, and if I had to go to the bathroom, they'd escort me. The psychiatrist signed some legal forms with the ward docs and my caseworker in the hallway, and they all vanished without even a good night. I was starting to get used to that. Then I was left on my own to just lay back in that cot, only a few feet off the floor of the ER waiting room for hours, and wait for nothing to happen. The lights were dimmed overhead, and the phoned-in intercom voices buzzed on every few minutes. I shared that room with 3 others. The girl next to me had a thick wrapping of bandages around her wrist. Her eyes were bloodshot and her skin was soaked with sweat. She kept her eyes fixed on me, and she bit at her sleeves as I just stared right back. At some point the first row of lights turned out as the night set in, leaving the other half of the room in the shift office still glowing. Staff walked in and out, giving reports and small talk at the front desk while others shuffled around oblivious to us. Otherwise, there were all the sounds of the hospital rumbling and the staff talking circles in the endless telephone calls and reports. A somewhat entertaining series of events constantly unfolding amongst a bunch of small-time night injuries and even some drama. I never knew I was one of those suicidal types, but lying under someone's watch that night felt oddly comforting for once, or maybe I just didn't care anymore. And as I tossed on that thin cushion long into the night, that noisy night of constant commotion, my brain likewise just couldn't stop jumping from one memory to another. Then I couldn't tell if they were memories or dreams. And when I woke up I was still in the hospital, and sicker than sick.